I had no idea that the worst day of my life was about to get even worse. A few hours after my father passed away, my wife looked me straight in the eye and told me she was done with me. She said I was a loser. She said I had no future. Then she told me she was leaving me for my best friend. What she did not know was that I was only hours away from inheriting $500 million. What I did next changed everything. "I am done with you, Caleb," she said. "I cannot stay married to a broke man with no direction. Your little paycheck is dragging me down. Ryan has a future. He is a real man." Those words came from Lauren Hill, my wife, just hours after I watched my father die. She said them calmly, almost proudly, as she pressed divorce papers against my chest. Her smile was cold, sharp, like she had been waiting for this moment. She had no idea that the man she was humiliating was about to inherit a $500 million business empire. If you have ever loved someone so deeply that their betrayal felt like a knife in your back, then you will understand what came next. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle by the time I turned onto Maple Avenue. Streetlights painted long golden streaks across the wet road. My father's hospital wristband was still in my pocket, curled up like something alive. I could not bring myself to throw it away. I drove slowly, not because of the weather, but because my hands did not feel like my own. My father's final moments replayed in my head. His breathing, his eyes fading, his grip loosening until it was gone. When I parked in front of the house, I sat there with the engine running. The living room lights glowed warmly behind the curtains. That house had always been my safe place. That night, it felt like a doorway between two storms. I stepped out of the car. The air smelled like wet dirt and grief. Each step toward the door felt heavier, like something was warning me to turn back. Then I heard laughter. Not just any laughter. It was Lauren's. I knew her laugh. With me, it was soft and quiet. With friends, it was loud. But this laugh was different. Smooth. Warm. The kind she used when she wanted someone to feel special. At first, I thought maybe someone came over to comfort her. I took off my shoes and walked inside. That is when I saw Ryan's jacket hanging on the coat rack. The breath left my body all at once. I moved toward the stairs slowly, like my mind needed time to catch up to what my body already knew. The closer I got, the clearer the voices became. Lauren's voice, Ryan's voice, a whisper, then a laugh that shattered whatever hope I had left. I stopped halfway up the stairs and grabbed the railing. My reflection stared back at me from a picture frame. Red eyes, slumped shoulders, a man still wrapped in grief. I took one breath and climbed the rest of the way. The bedroom door was closed, but not locked. I turned the handle. Lauren was sitting on the edge of the bed. Her hair was loose. She was wearing a shirt that was not mine. Ryan stood beside her, buttoning his sleeve like this was a normal evening. The room smelled like perfume and cologne. Nothing familiar. Nothing like home. Lauren turned toward me. Her face did not show guilt. It showed irritation. "You are back already," she said flatly. I could not speak. Ryan looked at me calmly, slipping on his watch. There was no shame in his eyes. "Did not expect you so soon," he said. "My father just died," I whispered. Lauren blinked slowly. "And what do you want me to do about that?" she said. "Cry with you? I am tired, Caleb. Tired of your small life. Your small dreams. Your small everything." She opened a drawer and pulled out a white envelope. She placed it on the bed like a prize. "These are divorce papers," she said. "I have wanted out for months. You hold me back. I am done with you. You are a loser. You always will be." I stood there in silence, surrounded by grief and betrayal, while the woman I loved walked away from me. She had no idea that my life was about to change forever. "I cannot stay married to a broke man with no direction," she said flatly. "Logan has a future. He is a real man." Hearing that felt like the floor shifted under my feet. Logan leaned against the dresser with his arms folded, calm and confident, like this was all settled business. "It is better if you accept it," he said. "She deserves stability. A future. You cannot give her that." I took a small step backward. My hands were shaking. I could feel my heartbeat all the way out in my fingers. The grief from losing my father twisted into something sharper, colder. My wife, Tiffany, kept talking like she was planning a weekend trip. "Just sign the papers so we can move on," she said, nudging the divorce documents toward me. "Logan's promotion is coming soon. We are building a real life. A successful one. One that does not include you." I looked at her. The woman I married. The woman I trusted. The woman I believed would stand by me no matter what. There was nothing there. No love. No regret. Just calculation. That hurt more than the betrayal. Then I looked at Logan, the boy I shared lunches with in middle school, the man I celebrated birthdays with. He stared back at me without a trace of shame. I said nothing. I turned and walked out of the room. The silence behind me was louder than shouting. The hallway felt colder. The stairs felt longer. By the time I reached the living room, I could not tell if the pain in my chest was from losing my father or realizing that the place I called home had never really been one. The next morning, I woke up on the old couch in the living room. Calling it sleep would be generous. My eyes closed, but my mind never rested. My father's final breath and Tiffany's voice played on repeat all night. By sunrise, I felt 10 years older. I sat up slowly, rubbing my neck. The curtains were still drawn. The room felt heavy, like yesterday never ended. Her words echoed in my head, sharp and cruel. But that day was not about her. It could not be. My father deserved everything I had left. I washed my face with cold water until it stung. I did not bother changing clothes. I did not care how I looked. That day, I was burying the man who raised me, the man who taught me to be kind in a loud world, the man who carried the pain of losing my mother alone just to protect me from it. At the funeral home chapel, something felt wrong the moment I stepped inside. People I had never seen before filled the room. Men in tailored suits, women in elegant coats, people who moved with confidence and authority. Their shoes clicked on the polished floor, echoing in a space that suddenly felt too grand for the life I thought my father lived. I watched as men whispered to one another. Serious, focused, not neighbors, not old friends. One man, broad-shouldered, wearing a watch worth more than my car, bowed deeply in front of the casket. Another rested his hand on the wood and murmured something I could not hear. Even the funeral staff looked overwhelmed. My throat tightened. "Dad?" I whispered. "Who were you?" I sat in the front row, confusion pressing down on me. Losing him already felt unbearable. But this new mystery created a different kind of pain, one that shook everything I thought I knew. After the service, people approached me quietly. "Your father was an extraordinary man," one older executive said. "He trusted you completely." Another nodded. "He spoke of you often." I could barely respond. I did not know these people. I did not know this version of my father. Their words felt like puzzle pieces that did not belong to any picture I recognized. After the burial, as the last soil fell, a man in a dark, gray suit approached me. His posture was respectful, his voice calm. "Mr. Carter," he said, "I am Harold Mason, your father's attorney." Behind him stood 3 men in sharp suits, silent and serious. "We need to speak with you privately," he said. I blinked. "Why?" He gave a small, knowing smile. "Because your father left something for you," he said. "Something important." They guided me into a private conference room inside the funeral home. The door closed, blocking out the noise of the world. The attorney placed a sealed black case on the table. And in that moment, I knew my life was about to change forever. Inside the case was a tablet. Attorney Harold Mason set it gently on the table like it weighed more than glass and metal. "This contains your father's final recorded message," he said. "He made it 2 weeks ago. He instructed me to play it for you the day he was buried." My breath caught. "Recorded?" I whispered. "Yes," Mason said. He wanted his words to be clear, unchanging, preserved. He dimmed the lights a little and tapped the screen. The video flickered, then steadied. And there was my father, alive, not in his old work clothes, not sitting in our small living room. He was dressed in a suit I had never seen him wear. He sat behind a thick mahogany desk that did not belong to the life I thought we lived. The room behind him looked like a private office inside a tower, not a modest house on Maple Avenue. When he spoke, his voice was calm and heavy, like a man who had been carrying a secret for too long. "Caleb," he said, looking straight into the camera, "my son. If you are watching this, then I am gone." My fingers tightened around the chair arm. "There are truths I have kept from you since the day your mother died," he continued. "I promised her, on her deathbed, that I would protect you at all costs." His eyes softened for a moment. Then they hardened, like the memory hurt him even now. "Your mother's accident was not an accident," he said. "I discovered the truth days after she died. Rivals, powerful ones, wanted me out of the way because of the contracts I was negotiating." I felt a sting behind my eyes. "She was driving my car that night," he said. "The attack was meant for me." My chest tightened like a fist closed around it. When I learned what happened, he went on, I knew I could no longer live openly. I moved us into a simpler life. Not poverty. Privacy. Safety. He leaned forward slightly. I stepped away from my position and placed everything I owned into an irrevocable trust. You always wondered why I lived modestly. Now you know. It was the only way to make sure you reached adulthood without a target on your back. Around me, the men in the room stayed quiet. Heads lowered. No one stared. They gave me space as my entire world rearranged itself. Then my father said the words that changed everything. I am the founder and majority shareholder of Dominion Carter Holdings, he said, valued at approximately $500 million. And now it belongs to you. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. You may think you are not ready, he continued. You may think this is bigger than you. But I promise you, son, you are more capable than you know. I built that company, and I built you. Both are in your hands now. He looked off camera and nodded, like someone was standing nearby. To the board and executives sitting with my son, he said, honor this transition. Support him. Guide him as you guided me. The camera shifted for a second, showing the same executives now sitting in the room with me. My stomach dropped. So that was who they were. The view returned to my father. Live carefully, Caleb, he said, but do not live in fear. Walk wisely, but do not hide the way I did. The world will know you in time, but only when you choose. He paused, and his voice softened. Your mother's final wish was simple. Protect our son. Let him grow without danger. I honored her until my last breath. Now it is your turn to honor her by stepping into the life I built for you. The screen went black. I sat frozen, not just shocked, but shaken by the weight of a legacy I never asked for and could not run from anymore. I stayed in that chair long after the video ended, staring at the dark screen like my father might come back on and explain it again, slowly, the way he used to explain things when I was a kid. But the room stayed still. The shadows did not move. The truth had already been spoken, and I could not unhear it. Attorney Mason took a quiet breath and waited. The executives stood along the walls with a kind of respect I did not expect. These were men used to power, used to control. Yet they were holding back, letting me find my footing. When I finally lifted my head, my voice came out rough. Why did he not tell me while he was alive? Mason's expression softened. He believed secrecy was safety, and he trusted you would understand when the time came. I swallowed hard. I do not even know who those people at the funeral were. One of the executives spoke up. The man who bowed at the casket is the head of Crestwood Shipping, a longtime ally of your father. Another added, the woman in the navy coat runs one of the largest contracting firms in Atlanta. She respected your father deeply. Then a man stepped forward slightly, introducing himself with a steady voice. My name is Anthony Reed, he said. I handle internal operations. Your father built relationships with powerful people, but he kept you hidden so no one could ever use you against him. I shook my head slowly, not because I disagreed, but because I could not believe it. I grew up thinking he fixed old heaters and repaired broken cabinets, I said. He did, Mason replied gently. He lived the modest life fully. But behind it, he protected an empire. The words were too big, but they sat on my chest anyway. Mason slid a new folder across the table. This contains the trust documents, the transition letter for the board, and your father's instructions. I did not open it. I stared at it like it was a door I was not ready to walk through. What happens now? I asked quietly. Anthony Reed stepped forward again. The board has been informed. You are the new controlling shareholder. And per your father's directive, you are to become the next chief executive officer. I blinked hard. I work at a logistics warehouse, I said, almost to myself. And the room stayed quiet, as if everyone understood the same thing. My life had just split in two. I do not know anything about running a corporation, I admitted, my voice low. One of the men in the room answered right away. We will guide you. Your father was clear. You will not be alone. That was supposed to comfort me, but it did not. Not yet. My father's video, the truth he dropped on me, the size of it all, it felt too heavy, too sudden, like someone had swapped my whole life out while I was not looking. Attorney Harold Mason placed his hand on the folder in front of me, pulling my attention back. Your father wanted you to go to headquarters when you are done here, he said. Tomorrow morning. He believed seeing the company would help you understand your place in it. I nodded faintly. But as I gathered the papers, something twisted inside me. A cold realization. A memory clicking into place like a lock snapping shut. My mother's death. The rivals. The attack. The reason we lived small. Every quiet sacrifice my father made just took on a new shape. And it made my breathing turn shaky. I stood slowly, clutching the folder tight against my chest. My father died protecting a secret I did not even know existed, I said. Mason nodded once. He protected you. And now he has given you the tools to protect yourself. I looked around the room at the suits, the polished shoes, the men who lived closer to my father's real life than I ever did. They did not look at me with impatience. They looked at me with expectation and respect I did not feel ready to carry. I walked out of that room like the ground had changed. Like each step had more weight than the last. Outside, the rain had stopped. The pavement glistened under the gray sky like a mirror. I pulled in a slow breath, and the cold air burned my lungs. I drove to my father's house without turning on the radio. When I stepped inside, the living room felt smaller than it ever had, like it belonged to a stranger. This house was built on one idea: blend in and stay alive. Modesty meant safety. Silence meant survival. I walked into my father's bedroom. Worn shirts, old boots, a toolbox, books with yellowed pages. Plain, ordinary, unremarkable. I sat down on the bed and ran my hand over the quilt he folded 1,000 times. I could not wrap my mind around the fact that the man who slept in this room also led an empire of contracts and influence. Then I noticed a wooden box on the nightstand. I had seen it before, but never really looked at it. The lid had faint carved patterns, worn smooth by time. I picked it up. Inside were photographs. My mother holding me as a baby. My father smiling beside us. Small moments frozen in time before danger changed everything. My eyes burned. I was not ready for that world, but it did not matter. That world had already claimed me. My wife's betrayal had cracked me open. My father's death left me hollow. But this truth was changing me into someone I did not recognize yet. I stood up slowly, the folder still heavy in my hand, but a small flame started to grow in my chest. Whoever tried to destroy my family, I would find them. And I would not face the world as the man my wife mocked. I would face it as my father's son. A month passed after my father's funeral. The house still smelled faintly like the flowers people sent and never came back for. I moved through each day the same way. Quiet. Numb. Functioning because I did not know what else to do. The folder with my father's truth stayed on the dining room table. Most days I did not touch it. Some nights I opened it just to read his handwriting again, like it could steady me. My wife moved out 2 days after the funeral. She did not take everything. Just what she wanted. Just what mattered to her. My former best friend helped her carry the bags. I watched from the window as they drove away without looking back. Some wounds do not bleed. They settle into your bones. By the 4th week, the court date arrived. I did not dress up. I did not rehearse anything. I put on a clean shirt, grabbed the documents Mason told me to bring, and drove downtown with no music. The courthouse smelled like polished floors and stale air. Everything inside was cold and procedural. Papers slid across desks. Lawyers moved like machines. People whispered. Time did not stop for heartbreak. When I entered the courtroom, my wife was already there with her attorney. She wore a fitted navy dress and tall heels. Her hair was straight. Her chin was lifted. Her eyes faced forward. Her new man was not with her. I did not know why, and I did not know why I noticed. The judge entered. We stood. Then we sat. The clerk read the case number. The whole thing moved fast, like filling out a form. Her attorney confirmed the petition. My attorney confirmed no contest. The judge flipped through the file like he had seen this exact story 1,000 times. No speeches. No accusations. No emotions. Just paperwork. The judge looked at me once. Do you agree to the divorce? I swallowed. I do. The judge nodded once, signed the papers, and said it like he was reading a grocery list. The marriage between the parties is dissolved. That was it. My wife did not look at me. I did not speak to her. Nobody lingered. Nobody cared. We were just another case on a crowded calendar. When I stepped out of the courtroom, sunlight hit my face like something I did not recognize anymore. Bright. Sharp. Almost rude. I stood on the courthouse steps for a second with nothing in my hands. No marriage. No father. No clear direction. Just a heavy silence, like the pause right before the ground shifts. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. Sender, Dominion Carter Holdings. Subject, Chief Executive Officer Transition, Executive Introduction, and Headquarters Visit. The message was formal and direct. It matched exactly what my father and Attorney Mason told me. It gave a date, a time, and a required appearance. It said board members would be waiting. Staff would be assembled. The life my father hid from me was not a secret anymore. It was sitting in my inbox with a schedule attached. The morning of the visit arrived with a quiet stillness that did not match the storm inside my chest. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror and adjusted the cuffs of a charcoal gray suit the board sent the night before. I had never worn anything like it. The fabric felt smooth and strong. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for me. The crisp white shirt made my shoulders look sharper. The dark tie made me look steadier than I felt. I did not look like a warehouse worker anymore. I did not look like the man my wife dismissed. I did not even look like the grieving son who still felt hollow. I looked like someone stepping into a world I had secretly belonged to all along. At exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, I heard a low engine outside. I pulled the curtain back slightly and froze. A black luxury sedan sat in front of the house, glossy and commanding. 2 security guards stood near it in dark suits, still and alert. The company logo shimmered on the license plate frame. The driver stepped out and opened the rear door with practiced precision. "Mr. Carter," he said politely, "we are ready for you." I took one slow breath, steadying myself. Then I stepped outside. The neighborhood went quiet. Curtains shifted. Neighbors who used to wave casually stared like they could not believe their eyes as I walked toward that car. When the driver closed the door behind me, the soft click felt like a seal. One life shut. Another life opened. The ride was smooth, the interior cool and dim. Skyscrapers slid across the tinted windows as we moved through the city. Every block we passed pulled me further away from the version of me that lived inside limits, closer to the version my father prepared without my knowledge. Then the car turned into the corporate district, and I saw it, the Dominion Carter Holdings Tower, glass and steel rising above everything else, shining like a monument. I had seen the building before from a distance. I never imagined it belonged to me. Today it was not just a building. It was my inheritance. Security stood at attention as the car entered the private drive. Cameras shifted. Heads turned. Employees near the entrance stiffened like a signal had gone out. The driver opened the door. I stepped out. For a brief second, it felt like the world stopped moving. Then everything snapped into motion. The revolving doors opened. Lobby staff hurried into position. But what hit me hardest was not the building. It was the line. 2 rows of people stood along the entrance hallway. Employees, managers, executives, assistants, interns, everyone forming a perfect walkway toward the atrium, standing straight with respectful faces. I had never seen anything like it. I walked between them at a steady pace. The marble floor reflected my shoes. My steps echoed up into the high ceiling. I did not ask for this authority, but I could not hide from it anymore. Halfway down the walkway, I saw a movement that made my stomach turn. My ex-wife, Tiffany Hill, stood with the human resources team, wearing a navy skirt and a company blouse. She was holding a stack of documents. The moment she saw me, her hands went weak. The papers almost slipped out of her grip. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes went wide as she took in the suit, the security, the way the building itself seemed to react to my presence. Then I saw my former best friend. Logan Pierce stood on the opposite side with the management staff, his identification badge clipped neatly to his chest. When he saw me, all the color drained from his face. His folder slipped. Papers scattered across the floor. He stared at me like he had seen a ghost. No, something worse than a ghost. The truth. I did not slow down. I did not look at either of them twice. I kept walking, calm and controlled, like they were part of a life I already put behind me. Near the atrium, the staff parted wider, opening a clear path to the executive elevator. And I stepped forward, headed straight into the world that was mine now. 2 board members were waiting near the executive elevator when I reached the atrium. They stood straight, calm, but their faces were warm in a way I did not expect. One of them, Anthony Reed, gave a small nod that felt like a welcome. "Mr. Carter," he said, "welcome." I nodded back. "Thank you." The elevator doors opened before anyone touched a button. That alone told me this was not a normal ride. I stepped in, and the board members followed. The elevator was glass on 2 sides, so I could see the whole building as we rose. Floor after floor slid past like pages turning. Below us, the staff still stood in those perfect rows, watching. They were watching the man their founder trusted rise to the top floor. When the elevator opened, I stepped out onto the executive level. I had been here once after the funeral, but it did not feel the same. That day I was a confused son. Today, I was the one they were waiting for. The double doors to the boardroom were open. Inside, the board members were already gathered around a long oak table. When I entered, every chair moved back. Every person stood. Not for my father. For me. The room went quiet as I walked to the head of the table. The leather chair there was the one my father used. I did not sit yet. I placed both hands on the polished wood and looked around the room, meeting eyes one by one. "We will begin," I said. They sat down. Anthony Reed stayed standing beside me, ready to assist. I took a breath. "My father built this company with honesty, integrity, and precision," I said. "That does not change because I am here. If anything, it has to get stronger." Heads nodded. Pens lifted. Screens lit up. I continued, steady but firm. "Before I take on the responsibilities he left me, there is something I have to do." I raised my chin slightly. "I am ordering a full audit of every department. Every account. Every personnel file. Every contract." A few people stiffened. Some exchanged careful glances. Anthony Reed's face stayed calm, almost approving, like he expected this. "Nothing is exempt," I added. "I want transparency. I want accuracy. And I want the truth." I paused just long enough for that to settle. "You have 1 week." No one spoke. No one argued. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Then I sat down in my father's chair. The air shifted. Heavy, tense, real. 7 days later, the building buzzed like a hive ready to split. The audit team had been everywhere. Doors opening and closing. Interviews. Records pulled. Systems combed line by line. People moved carefully, like they were afraid to make noise. On the morning of the 7th day, Anthony Reed walked into my office carrying a thick folder with a red tag. 2 auditors came in behind him. I stood up as they entered. Anthony set the folder on my desk. "It is done." One of the auditors cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter," he said, "what we found is extensive." I opened the folder slowly. What I saw sent a cold rush through my body. Fraudulent invoices. Unauthorized salary diversions. Vendor payments that were manipulated. Forged signatures. A web of missing money tied together with fake approvals and clean-looking paperwork. Names were highlighted. Logan Pierce. Tiffany Hill. 3 junior staff members. 2 senior managers. 1 supervisor. Anthony spoke carefully. Most of the embezzlement started inside the Human Resources and Logistics Approval Unit. Ms. Hill processed multiple falsified reimbursements. Mr. Pierce approved them. They split the proceeds. I stared at their names. I did not feel anger. I felt clarity. The betrayal ran deeper than I thought. The auditor continued, voice steady. Together, they siphoned nearly $2 million over an 18-month period. Silence filled the office. The folder lay open on my desk like a wound. The numbers and signatures showed rot hiding under polished floors. This was not just personal anymore. It was professional, intentional, systemic. Anthony stood beside me, quiet, his jaw tight. I closed the folder with steady hands. "Prepare termination letters," I said. Anthony nodded once. "And notify the police," I added. "I want them here tomorrow morning. Discreet, but ready." "Yes, sir," he said. I leaned forward slightly. "One more thing," I said. "Summon every employee to the auditorium tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning." Anthony met my eyes, and for the first time I saw something like pride there. "It will be done," he said. The next morning, the building hummed with unease. Whispers ran down hallways like electricity, spreading faster than emails. Managers adjusted their ties. Interns typed too fast. People kept looking over their shoulders. And at 10 o'clock, every last one of them would find out why. Behind closed blinds, the Human Resources team printed stacks of sealed envelopes. You could feel something coming, even if nobody said it out loud. At 3 minutes before 10 o'clock in the morning, security quietly took positions near the back exits. 2 minutes before 10, police vehicles rolled in through the underground loading bay so nobody outside would see. By 10 o'clock sharp, the auditorium was packed. Rows and rows of employees filled the seats, hundreds of them. The air felt charged, like the second right before thunder hits. My ex-wife, Tiffany Hill, sat with the Human Resources staff. She kept smoothing her skirt, like she could iron out the nervousness with her hands. She could sense something was wrong, even if she could not name it. Across the aisle, my former best friend, Logan Pierce, sat with the management group. He kept tapping his foot, irritated, impatient, acting like his time mattered more than everyone else's. Then the stage lights brightened. A soft murmur rolled through the room when I walked in. I was not the man they used to ignore. Not the guy Logan mocked. Not the husband Tiffany walked out on. Not the grieving son who kept his head down. I walked with a controlled stillness, the kind that makes people straighten their backs without thinking. The whole auditorium rose to their feet, almost by instinct. I stepped to the podium. The room went dead silent. "We conducted a company-wide audit," I said, my voice even and steady. The results were clear. I gave a small nod toward Anthony Reed. That was the signal. Human resources staff and senior executives moved into the aisles, each carrying stacks of sealed envelopes. I did not raise my voice. I did not slow down. Certain individuals violated company policy. I continued. The consequences will not be delayed. Human resources will now distribute termination letters. A wave of tension ran through the seats as the envelopes started moving row by row. People accepted them with shaky hands. Some looked confused. Some looked like they already knew. Then Tiffany received hers. I saw her freeze like her body forgot how to breathe. Her hands trembled so hard she could barely open the envelope. When she finally read the paper inside, all the color drained from her face. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears spilled immediately, fast and helpless. Logan opened his envelope slower, almost arrogant, like he expected a warning instead of a consequence. Then his eyes hit the bold words, immediate termination. His jaw clenched. His throat tightened. You could see his world tilt sideways right there in his seat. But I was not finished. "We expect honesty in this company," I said. "We expect loyalty. We expect integrity. And anyone who betrays those values will answer for it." Right then, the auditorium doors opened with a hard metallic click. Every head turned. Uniformed police officers walked in. A gasp tore out of Tiffany so loud that half the room flinched. "No," she whispered. "No, no, please." The officers moved with purpose. Not rushing. Not shouting. Just steady. They pulled out handcuffs and began reading names from the audit report. Tiffany Hill. Her face collapsed. A broken sound came out of her, half scream, half sob. She turned toward the stage like I was the only thing left to grab onto. "Caleb, please," she cried. "Oh God, please. I am begging you. Please do not let them." Her knees gave out and hit the floor hard. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. She clawed at the seat to pull herself up, but she could barely hold her own weight. "Please, Caleb," she kept saying. "I made mistakes. I was stupid. Just give me one more chance. Please do not let them take me." I did not flinch. I did not speak. I did not move. Logan tried to bolt for the side exit. He did not make it 2 steps. Security blocked him instantly. Officers pinned him against the wall, and the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists. "You cannot arrest me," Logan shouted, his voice cracking as he struggled. "I am a manager." "Not anymore," one officer replied calmly. Other names were called. A supervisor sobbed quietly as he was guided into the aisle. A senior staff member shook so hard he could barely walk. One young employee kept whispering, "I am sorry," over and over, like it might undo what he had done. Tiffany started crawling toward the stage, desperate and panicked, reaching for me like I was her last breath. "Caleb, please," she cried. "I love you. I always loved you." I was confused. I did not know what I was doing. "Please." I finally looked at her. Just looked. Calm. Still. Unmoved. I did not need to say anything. The truth was standing right there between us. She walked away when she thought I had nothing. She betrayed me with my closest friend. And she helped steal from the company my parents sacrificed everything to protect. Now the man she mocked was the one she begged for mercy. An officer lifted Tiffany by the arm. She fought weakly, sobbing so hard her words turned into broken sounds. Her legs dragged. Her hands shook. Her screams faded into whimpers as she was guided through the exit. The auditorium stayed silent. I stepped away from the podium. "This company will rebuild," I said simply. "Starting today, truth leads here, not greed." Then I turned and walked off the stage. And the employees parted from me, like I was walking through a doorway my father built with his own hands.